Some grandkids make you proud, my mother said with a smirk. Others not so much. She glanced at my son. My husband got angry and said, proud? Of what? Generational pettiness. The table went dead quiet. One cousin giggled, then quickly stopped because my mother stabbed a green bean with her fork, smirked, and said it right in front of everyone. Some grandkids make you proud. She didn't look at me. She looked at my son. Others, not so much. I didn't say anything. Neither did Caleb. He just sat there, hunched a little, pretending not to hear, even though the table had gone quiet enough to hear the fireplace crackle. He always tries to keep the peace, even when he's the one being attacked. But Ryan, my husband, he's not built like that. Proud, he said, not raising his voice, just making sure no one could pretend they didn't hear. Proud of what? Generational pettiness. The silence got thicker. One cousin giggled, then slapped a hand over her mouth like she'd coughed in church. My mom didn't flinch. She just kept chewing like none of it applied to her. And maybe in her mind it didn't. Maybe she'd spent so many years making everything about herself that she couldn't even recognize when someone was calling her out. She's been like that for as long as I can remember. Sweet when she wants to show off, cruel when there's no audience, and fake polite in front of anyone who matters. Caleb never stood a chance with her. He's too quiet, too smart, too different from the other grandkids she parades around like trophies. Her favorite is Lily, my sister Megan's daughter. Cheer captain, blonde curls, talks like she's 30. Megan can do no wrong and neither can her kid. Last year when Caleb won a statewide writing competition, my mother called it cute. When Lily placed third in a local art fair, she posted about it like it was the Olympics. But we kept the peace. We paid her mortgage, helped her fix the roof, drove her to doctor's appointments, put up with her snide comments because I was raised to think that's just what you do for family. That night, though, Ryan said what I didn't have the nerve to say. She humiliated our son. In front of everyone. She's always done it, I said. Yeah. And we've always let her. He looked straight ahead at the road. We were pulling out of the neighborhood and the string of identical holiday lights blurred past the window. I'm canceling the autopay, he said. I turned my head slowly. The house. She can call Megan if she needs help. We're done financing her cruelty. I didn't say no. That was the part that surprised me. After years of biting my tongue, excusing her behavior, covering for her in front of my own kid, I didn't argue. And once the decision was made, it was like a switch flipped in both of us. We didn't just cancel the payments. We stopped answering her texts. We didn't visit for Christmas. Caleb didn't even ask why, he just seemed relieved. She found out in February. Megan called me furious. You let Mom get foreclosure notices without telling anyone? You didn't notice? I asked. She didn't tell me either. She had plenty of time to reach out. She just didn't want to admit it. Megan hung up on me. I didn't call back. The house was gone by March. She didn't believe it at first. I know that because she kept texting me like nothing had happened. She sent a blurry picture of Lily in a pageant dress with the caption, "Beauty and Brains," and a thumbs-up emoji. No mention of Caleb. No mention of the mortgage. Not even a hint that her world was falling apart. Then about a week after Megan's call, the texts changed. At first it was subtle. I didn't get the usual email confirmation from the bank. Did you use a different account this month? Then a few days later, just checking, the loan people called. Thought maybe it was a scam. We didn't reply. Neither of us. I watched her unravel through the notifications on my phone. Her messages went from polite to accusatory in less than a week. She left a voicemail that said, "I hope you realize what you're doing." Then another one that said, "If I lose this house, it'll be on your conscience." She didn't say it, but she expected Megan to save her. She always thought Megan would be the fallback. But Megan has her own life, her own bills, and a husband who made it clear he wasn't about to foot the bill for his mother-in-law's 3-bedroom colonial just so she could keep hosting wine nights and criticizing everyone. I knew when she lost the house because Megan posted a cryptic story about people getting what they deserve, and someone else, one of the cousins, messaged me, "Your mom's place got repoed?" I didn't answer. A week later she texted me again, "I hope Caleb's happy. He's finally won." I didn't show him. He'd never asked us to cut her off. He just existed, and that was enough for her to hate him. That's the part one could never forget. that he had done nothing, that he had been a child trying to earn love from someone who decided, without reason, that he wasn't worth it. In April I heard from Danielle, the same cousin who giggled at Thanksgiving. She works part-time at a dental office in a rougher part of town. She said my mom had come in with an expired insurance card and asked for a payment plan. When they told her she couldn't open one with a past due balance, she made a scene. "She looks different," Danielle said over the phone. "Like smaller." She had found a room to rent above a liquor store on the west side. No parking. One shared bathroom. Her whole life packed into a few boxes and a Facebook Marketplace dresser that still had stickers on it from someone's kid. And still she didn't call to apologize. She just kept texting variations of the same thing. "You always hated me. You turned your son against me. You're no better than I was." Maybe that last one stuck with me the most, because she was right about something. I wasn't better. I just finally stopped letting her win. It was early June when she showed up. Not at our house, she would never do that. Too much pride. But she knew where Caleb worked. Saturdays at a second-hand bookstore downtown. He came home that day quieter than usual. He dropped his backpack by the door, sat down at the kitchen table and just stared at the wall for a while. Ryan was mowing the lawn. I sat across from him, waiting. Finally he said, "She came in." I didn't have to ask who. She acted like nothing ever happened. Asked if I'd read anything normal lately. He gave a dry half-smile. Whatever that means. I asked what he said. He shrugged. I said I was working. Then I went to the back and didn't come out again until she left. She must have been desperate. That's the only reason she would have lowered herself to pretending nothing happened. It wasn't about making peace. It was about re-establishing control. Like if she could get Caleb to engage, it would erase the consequences of everything she'd done. I went out to the porch after that, sat with Ryan while he drank a Gatorade and wiped sweat off his forehead. "She's trying to crawl back in," I said. "She won't stop," he replied. "Not until she thinks she's won again." So I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I visited her. Not to fix anything. Not to argue. Just to see how far she'd fallen, and to give her one last chance to prove she could be human. The building looked worse than Danielle described. One of those old brick things from the 60s, probably never renovated. Smelled like old fryer grease and bleach in the hallway. I knocked on the door with a piece of duct tape where the apartment number should have been. She opened it, surprised but already posing like she was the victim in a movie about an ungrateful daughter. She said, "Well, look who finally decided to visit." Her hair was flat. Her clothes didn't fit right. Behind her, I saw plastic bins stacked where a dresser should have been, and a mattress on the floor with a floral sheet half on it. "You came here to see how bad it is?" she asked. "No," I said. "I came to give you a chance." "To what?" "Apologize for raising a daughter who grew up to be this cold." That was it. That was her play. "I wanted to know if you ever felt anything close to regret for how you treated Caleb." She crossed her arms. "He's soft. You made him that way." I laughed. Not loud. Just a single breath of disbelief. "That's all I needed," I said, turning around. She called out after me, but I didn't turn back. I walked down the sticky hallway stairs out into the light and let the door slam shut behind me. That was the last time I ever saw her. And it still wasn't the end. 3 days after the visit, Megan called. She didn't waste time with greetings. "You really just left her there?" I didn't answer right away. I was in the car, parked outside Caleb's school, waiting for him to finish a club meeting. "She's your mother too," she said. "No," I finally replied. "She was yours. Always was." Megan's voice sharpened. "You act like you're some hero. All you did was cut her off and pretend it's justice. But you're just bitter she never picked your kid." That part stung because it was too close to something I had thought once. Not recently, but back when Caleb was younger and I still believed love from her was something he could earn. "I don't need her to pick my kid," I said. "I just need him to not be hurt by her." Megan hung up. I found out a week later that our mother had asked to stay with her. And Megan said no. She didn't tell me that directly. I found out from Danielle again, who heard it from their aunt at some family baby shower. Apparently, Megan's husband had drawn the line. Said they'd help with groceries, send her a little cash, but there was no way she was moving in. Not with the way she'd treated him for years. Our mom started floating around, short-term rentals, couch surfing with old friends who probably thought it was temporary. She even moved in with an old neighbor for 2 weeks before she was asked to leave. Rumor was she complained the whole time. Said the water pressure was bad. That they were cheap. That they treated her like she was homeless. Which she was. The thing that hit me hardest was the voicemail she left Caleb during all of this. She hadn't contacted him since the bookstore. But then one night she called. He didn't pick up. Later I found the message. He hadn't listened to it yet. Her voice was strained but fake calm. She said she was disappointed in how he'd chosen sides, and that she hoped one day he'd understand how families work. I deleted it. Without asking. Without guilt. We stopped checking messages after that. Ryan, who had tried to be neutral in the early years, stopped referring to her as your mom. He just called her by her name like she was someone we used to know. Megan kept defending her in public but wouldn't let her inside her house. That hypocrisy didn't surprise me. She had always been the golden one. She didn't understand what it meant to have a child treated like mine had been. Then, in September, we got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Thanksgiving from 2 years ago. Caleb sitting at the kids' table by himself. Everyone else was bunched around the main one. On the back in thick pen it said, "Actions have consequences. Enjoy yours." No signature. But we knew. She had nothing left to take from us, so she sent a reminder. Of what? I wasn't sure. Maybe of the quiet pain she caused for years, so normalized we didn't even flinch when it happened. That's when Ryan said it. She'll rot in resentment before she ever admits what she did. And she did. By late October we stopped hearing anything. No texts. No calls. No cousin updates. She disappeared like a dropped glass bead. Once shiny, now somewhere in the dark where no one bothered to look. Caleb never asked where she went. He had his college applications, a part-time job, a new friend group he didn't talk much about but smiled more around. We didn't bring her up either. It was like our house had been washed clean of her. Then on a gray Tuesday afternoon I ran into Mrs. Ellison at the grocery store. She used to live 2 doors down from us when I was a kid. I barely recognized her. Slimmer, older, hair dyed the color of wet clay. She recognized me instantly. After the usual small talk she leaned in and said, "I saw your mom last week. At the bus stop on 5th. She looked." She paused as if trying to find a polite word. "Thin." I said nothing. She didn't recognize me. Or pretended not to. I nodded and pushed the cart forward. "She had a suitcase," she added. "One of those little ones with a broken zipper." I nodded again and she got the message. At home that night I told Ryan. He didn't react much. Just said, "She's where she put herself." We didn't speak about it again. But the thought lingered. Not guilt, never guilt, but a strange sense of unfinishedness. Like there was still a door open somewhere, just slightly letting in cold air. Then in November the email came. It was from a woman named Teresa, apparently a landlord in a rundown share house just outside the city. She said our mother had listed me as her daughter and emergency contact. Said she hadn't paid rent in 6 weeks, was refusing to leave and had been emotionally disruptive to the other tenants. She asked if I wanted to take responsibility. I didn't reply. 5 days later she emailed again. One line. She says you owe her. I didn't respond to that either. We found out through Megan that she'd finally been evicted. Showed up at her door again, suitcase in hand. Megan didn't let her in. Her husband wouldn't even open the screen. They gave her $300 in cash and told her to figure it out. She ended up in a weekly rate motel. Moldy, beige carpet, the kind of place you can smell from the parking lot. Danielle saw her again just once getting off the bus. Said she looked angry. Not tired, not sad, just furious. Like the world had betrayed her by not continuing to give her everything she never earned. And through it all, not once did she apologize. Not once did she ask about Caleb. Not once did she admit it. She blamed us until the very end for a house we didn't steal from her, but simply stopped saving her from losing. December came quiet. No more emails. No gossip through the family chain. No surprise appearances or cryptic messages. It was like she'd finally burned through every last bridge and was sitting alone in the ashes, unwilling to admit she struck the match. We didn't decorate that much for Christmas. Just enough. Caleb asked if we could skip the big dinner, so we ordered Thai food and watched movies instead. At one point during the second movie he said out of nowhere, "It's weird how peaceful things are." It was. In January Megan sent one last text. Just a screenshot of a GoFundMe titled, "Help a Grandmother Rebuild Her Life After Family Betrayal." There was a photo of our mother sitting on a folding chair next to a wall heater, her face angled like she was being forced to look pitiful. The description was full of lies. Talked about financial abuse, cruel abandonment, and how her only crime was loving the wrong child less. That line. That was the one. I stared at it for so long the screen dimmed. We never responded. The campaign raised $58 before it was taken down. No one wanted to pay to keep a bitter story alive. A few weeks later, Caleb got his acceptance letter. Full ride. Honors program. He stood in the doorway of our bedroom holding the envelope, and I could tell he didn't know how to say what he wanted to say. "You earned it," Ryan told him. "Every bit of it." Caleb nodded once. "Thanks for not letting her keep hurting us." And that was it. No big dramatic moment. Just the kind of quiet healing that starts to settle when someone toxic finally slips out of orbit. We never heard from her again. Not when Caleb left for school. Not when Megan had her second baby. Not when our father, who had left her decades earlier and never once looked back, passed away and was buried in a cemetery she wasn't invited to. She faded out exactly the way she feared most. Unnoticed. Some people spend their whole lives building a wall of control and manipulation and call it family. She thought she was untouchable because we shared her blood. But family doesn't mean never facing consequences. It means someone eventually says, "Enough." And we did. We cut clean. And we never looked back.